So welcome back to class. Are you all ready with your rough notebook and pen? Okay. So last class we were discussing the second chapter. The name of the second chapter is land, soil, water, natural vegetation and wildlife. So what is this all? So it's all an example for natural resources, isn't it? So that's what we discussed. And in the last class we were discussing land resource, the land, soil, water, then natural vegetation and wildlife. So the land, you know the meaning of land and uses of land and the conservation of land. So last concept was conservation of land. Why do we need to have a conservation of a land? Why do we need to conserve the land resource? Because the population is increasing and the demand is ever growing. It is growing continuously. It is rising, is it not? The demand of every people is rising. To fulfill their needs, every resources like a forest cover and the pasture land, grazing land and all other wastelands, even wastelands also using now. We are exploiting, we are making use of resources. So because of this, if it continues the same like this, in the future we may face a problem. So we are having a fear of losing our earth in the coming days. So that reason we should have a conservation of our land resources, so that the coming future generation can make use of land and also we can treat the natural resources well and we can treat our nature well. Then in return the nature will take care about us. Is not? So conservation, we discuss about the conservation measures. The conservation measures like the check on overgrazing and the land degradation must be checked. And the level of land degradation must be checked, and other like conservation measures, afforestation and controlling the use of chemical pesticides and chemical fertilizer in the agriculture field and controlling the mining activities. So it's all the process or measures which we need to follow up for conserving the natural resources. That's what we discussed. Now we'll go for the next concept. It's about the soil. Soil. What is soil? Soil, you know about the soil, isn't it? What is soil? Soil is like a grainy substances. The soil is a grainy substances. Grainy, you know about kalu in Kannada, kalu. So it's a grainy substance. It looks like that. It's a very small, tiny, grainy substance, soil, and it's a very thin layer. You know about the three layers which is formed earth, interior of earth. Inside the earth we have three layers. Inside we have core, and above that we have mantle, then crust. On the crust, the outer layer on the surface of earth is soil. Soil, it has covered the layer of earth surface. That means the land surface mainly. The soil has covered the land surface. So this soil is a tiny substance, consists of tiny substances, and it's a thin layer. Soil is a thin layer of thin layer of grainy substances covered over earth surface. So this soil which is covered over earth surface, it's a very thin layer compared to the crust is very thin layer, and it takes thousands of years. It takes thousands of years to form 1 centimeter of soil. 1 centimeter of soil. Then one fist, to form the one fist full of a soil. To form the one fist full of a soil, it takes thousands of years. So it gets under many processes to get a form of a soil. Then this soil is made up of, the soil is made up of chemical and these minerals. And weathered rock, and even a gas. So this soil is made up of minerals. It contains a particular minerals in it, and it contains a chemical matters and chemical components in every soil. And it is formed mainly the weathered rock, from the weathered rock. The parent rock and weathered rock, these are the two different concepts or two different things. Weathered rock and parent rock. We will discuss in the coming class. Then it takes long geological period. Otherwise, it takes thousands of years to form one centimeters of soil. To form only 1 centimeters of soil, it's a very thin layer. The 1 centimeter of layer, it takes thousands of years. It takes a long geological period. So how soil get formed? How it get formed? So because of the many processes like weathering rock, and there are many factors which makes or which forms soil. So it's about these three concepts. Then you will continue. I will write the next points. Till then, write these points. The soil is a thin layer. You should remember that it is soil is a thin layer. It is covered over the surface. Like a crust is a thin layer. In comparing with the layers which is formed earth inside the earth, like we have core, mantle, crust. In that, the crust is a very thin layer. So on the crust, we have the soil cover. It is like a very thin layer. It is a soil, and it is of a grainy substances, tiny grainy substances. So it's made up of minerals, chemical matters, and weathered rock. It's made up of all these three, and also along with the gas. And it takes thousands of years to form centimeters of soil. 1 centimeter of soil. To form a fistful of a soil, it takes thousands of years. It takes a long geological period to form 1 centimeter of a soil. Write on this point. Is that all? Then here the soil soil supports growth of plants. So because soil contains, as we discussed, soil it has chemical matters and components and the minerals, and so the plants that requires humus soil to grow. So this soil that provides a suitable condition and whatever the requirement for the plants is provided by the soil, so that the soil supports for the life like a plant. So it's our fourth point. Right now we'll go for the next sub concept under the soil. Soil, what we are discussing is now it's a main concept. In under this we have many sub-concepts like a soil profile, and we have soil degradation, soil conservation. So it's about the soil information and its a definition of a soil. Is that clear? Write down. Okay. Now it's about soil profile. Soil profile like structure of a soil. The structure. Soil get forms under many processes. Soil forms from the rock. We get soil from a rock. So directly soil cannot form from the rock. It gets under so many processes. So that's what we will discuss. What are about the process which gets under the soil formation from the rock. So the soil profile is with a picture. If I would like to explain with a picture, like if you take a piece of interior of an earth, if you take a piece of interior of the earth, you can understand. Here, interior of the earth, in beneath of a crust, we have rocks, very big rocks, which is this crust mainly is made up of a rock. We have very big rock interior of the earth. So it's called as parent rock. From this rock you will get a soil. So then next process, what is that process? When the rock gets weathered, weathered means this when the rock gets fragmented means when it pieces into small particles, small substances. It's called as weathered rock, which is broken into small pieces. It's called as a weathered rock. So this rock gets into small pieces, or it divides into many segments under the high temperature, low temperature, and by the blowing of wind. If it is velocity of wind is high, there we can see the process of weathering rock is high there. For example, in the desert, you can see the mushroom rock. Suppose rock over here, because of blowing of wind, after some hundreds of years, that rock turns to this shape. It's called as mushroom rock. You know why? Because the wind which blows with a high velocity that carries sediments, sand sediments with it. So when it hit to this bottom of a rock, this rock will be eroded. It's not, this portion will be eroded. Then it's what looks like a mushroom. So we know about that. We discussed in the 7th class. So that's what an example. So with this activities or with these things, the rock gets formed very fast with less geological time. It's a weathered rock, and now it's about subsoil. It forms after thousands of years, lakhs of years. This weathered rock, the piece of rock that gets into very tiny small segments with some more other part of our rocks over there, and in above we will get topsoil. You get it? It's soil profile. It's the crust along with the mantle, and suppose we took a piece of beneath of crust. So it's look like this. So soil get formed the step by means like a process. It gets under the many process. The first process like from it forms soil gets formed from the parent rock, the rock which is there in the beneath of a crust. So from there with a weathered rock means the rock which is got into small pieces. It's a weathered rock. Then the subsoil. There are four steps in it. First stage, second stage, third stage or step, and fourth stage. Here, the fourth stage, otherwise you may say it's the first one. Okay. In the fourth stage, that means the beginning. Here, we have parent rock. Parent rock, and that rock will be weathered, so it's called weather rock and subsoil with clay, silt and the sand, and here we have topsoil with humus and vegetation. These are the classification. It's a structure of a soil formation. The soil profile, it has three stages as this picture shows. The first stage, like a fourth stage, you may say it's the first and the fourth. The fourth stage, here the soil gets formed from the parent rock. When the rock gets under the high temperature, low temperature, as you know, when we get the beneath of a crust, we'll get high temperature. It means like pressure is more. When the density increases, pressure will be more. So when we get into the instead of earth, temperature, density, and pressure will be high. When this rock gets under the high temperature, high pressure, and high density, it breaks into small pieces. For example, see in Rajasthan, in India, we have many rocks. Like suppose once if you go there, find a rock. And always the Rajasthan prevails with the high temperature. The Rajasthan prevails with high temperature, it will be very high, and then because of that the rock will be somewhat like it is hot. It's hot. If it does that, it can experience the hotness. And if you pour cold water into that, what happens? It gets breaking in between. If you pour cold water into this hot material, rock is hot material in the Rajasthan. Suppose it is placed in Rajasthan. Due to the high temperature, it will be very hot, and if you pour cold water into that, it breaks in between. And if it continues the same for a long geological time, for thousands of years, the rock gets into smaller pieces and that falls down. That falls down, the pieces from the rock. Then these rock materials, like some materials, sediments, we call it sediments. These sediments will be carried out, will be taken away from the blowing of wind and running of water, flowing of water and blowing of wind that carries these sediments and that spreads across the earth's surface. That's how our soil got formed. Not only with this, our soil formed by this weathered rock and also with the vegetations and like a relief features influences for that. And the climatic conditions like high temperature, low temperature influences for the formation of a soil, and the vegetations like a dead bed, like this leaf, it may be roots. So it also contributes in the formation. Otherwise, it also get under the process in formation of a soil. Then time is also another one factor which influences or which makes or which determines the formation of a soil. When the place takes a long geological time, that means it's having a fine particles of a soil. So that's about these soil profiles. Soil profile is a structure of soil from beneath of earth to top. Otherwise you can say it's a bottom. Soil profile is nothing but a structure of a soil. It's a structure of soil from the beneath or from the bottom of earth to the top. It's a structure. Is not. That's what it's a soil picture, which is a soil profiles picture which I drawn there. The first stage, it's the top soil. With humus and vegetation. This top soil has some more humus and more humus in it. Fertility is more in this top soil. Why? Because this top soil is the last stage or last level of a soil formation. It's exactly what we are getting a soil in this top soil. You will get a soil. And if you go towards third stage, fourth stage or second stage, you don't get a soil over there exactly. You will get some piece of rocks, that's it. But here in the top soil, you will get a soil, because this soil, top soil, it has formed after getting into the many process, after combining of many things. What are those things which forms the soil? Humus, vegetations and flora and fauna, like dead particles of animal and plants that includes the soil, and about like a temperature, high temperature, low temperature, the water and the time. So this all includes here, and it has formed the top soil. So top soil is a ultimate level of a soil formation. So that reason in this we get a humus and vegetations. So this humus supports for the growth of vegetation. What do you mean by vegetation? Vegetation is nothing but plants, group of plant. It's a vegetation, group of plant. So this top soil that supports for growth of plant. So it's called as vegetation. So the top soil, it has humus and vegetation. Then in the second stage, we have subsoil. The subsoil means it has not fully formed the soil. It has not fully formed soil. Its subsoil is going to form in the next level. Like, so this subsoil, it is included of silt, sand and clay. Sand, you know, usko. Then silt like somewhat large grainy substances. It's somewhat larger in the size compared with the sand, the silt. You can find this in the river valley, in foothills of Himalayan mountains. There we can find this silt, sand, clay, because it's not fully formed the soil over there. Then in the third stage, we have weathered rock. Weathered rock means the rock which has broken into pieces. Broken into many tiny pieces, weathered rock. So this rock has gone under high temperature, high pressure and high density. That's the reason this big rock got small pieces, gone into small pieces. This is the third stage. In the fourth stage, what we have? Otherwise, it will be clear. It's not. If I write from the first, second, third, it will be clear like this. So it is the first stage, second, third stage, and fourth stage. It will be clear. It's not. That's the reason. First, second, third, and fourth. In the fourth stage, you will get a topsoil. The last stage of a soil formation. In the first stage, what we have is a parent rock. Parent rock means this rock, actually it's a rock, fully, it's complete rock. From that complete rock, we'll get a piece, means what you call the small segments because of weather, high temperature, low temperature, all those things, and it's a weathered rock, broken rock. Then subsoil. Some further it has broken into small pieces and it's mixed with some other things, and it's mixed with the chemicals, and in the topsoil It's a humus. It's totally, completely formed soil with the humus and vegetation. This every rock has a mineral. Every rock has minerals. Every piece of rock it should be having more than 100 form of chemical in it. It will be contain more than 100 chemicals. So this soil has chemical. Every soil has a chemical. So this parent rock that determines the texture, size, color of a soil. So it's about the soil profile. Then you will go for the next one in under this main concept soil. Randomness. Is it over? Okay. We'll go for next concept. In another soil, we have two more concepts to discuss in this. So now what we discuss is we discuss about the definition of the soil, then the soil profile. Now we'll discuss how the soil has formed. What are the factors which is influenced in the formation of soil, or what are the factors which included or involved in the formation of soil. How it has formed the soil. The factors which the formation of soil, like formation of soil, soil formation. Soil formation. We'll discuss how the soil has formed. Now we discuss about the pictures. Is it not? I hope you understood by that picture. Now we'll go somewhat deeper. So we discuss from the soil get formed from the rock, parent rock. That rock will be divided into small particles. Further it divides, and at last we will get a soil. Is it not? It's the basic one. Now, what are the things which makes or which influences in forming the soil? Soil cannot form with only the rock. Only the rock factors. Only a rock, the soil cannot be get formed. Is it not? It includes many things to get a soil. Soil cannot be formed by only the one factors like rock. It includes many things. That's what we will be discussing. The factors which involves are the factors which influences or which forms. The factors of soil formation. Factors of soil formations are, first one, the main, it's about parent rock, weathered rock or parent rock. Parent rock and climate. Climatic factors. So these climatic factors that includes many things in it. So what are those? High temperature, low temperature, rainfall, high rainfall, very low rainfall, and blowing of wind. This all comes under this climatic factors. Climatic factors is not only one temperature. It includes rainfall, high rainfall, low rainfall, and the high velocity of blowing wind, low velocity of blowing wind, and the high temperature, low temperature. This all included in these climatic factors. Not only these two, there are other factors like these are the two main factors, parent rock and climatic factors. These are the two factors which forms soil. Other than that, we have some more factors like relief and flora and fauna. Instead of that, we can write a vegetation. Then organic matters or materials, organic materials, then the time. So these all are the factors which influences or which involved in the formation of a soil. First one we discussed about parent rock. So I will give a one sentence explanation for all those things right now. I will give explanation for all those things. It's a factor of soil formation. Factors of soil formation. First one, the parent rock and the climatic. These are two important factors. Write on this. And other important factors like relief features. What is relief? Topography. Different landforms is called as relief. Topography is also called as different landform. The relief features. Different landforms. What are the different landforms we have? Plains, mountains, plateau, coastal lands, islands, deserts. These all example for the relief features. So these all the factors, these all the landforms that influences in soil formation. The next one, vegetation. That means you can say it is organic materials. These organic materials that involves both the vegetation and wildlife, like flora and fauna, both the organic materials. Then the time. Is that over? Okay. Now what's the parent rock? The parent rock that determines the colors, as I told, it determines color, texture and size and chemical, color, texture, size, chemical and mineral component of soil. So the soil on the earth's surface, the thin layer which is covered on the earth's surface, it is not in the same color, is it not? It differs in color, it differs in its size, and every soil will be not having the same quality, like the same fertility, same humus. Every soil will be having a different humus in it. Every soil is having a different color in it, like the black color, yellow, brown color, red color, is it not? So, and every soil is like we have different types of soil: alluvial soil, laterite soil, black soil, is it not? So this all the soil, different types of soil what we have on the surface, it is because of this parent rock. The rock, the parent rock, it's responsible for creating a particular type of rock. With it maybe different color, the thickness, this texture, or with different mineral components in it. It all have the main source from this parent rock. If the parent rock is in the red color, then automatically the soil color will be red. If the parent rock is having more or different types of a chemical in the whatever the chemical component in parent rock it has, it will be transferred to this soil. That means the soil has formed from this parent rock. Of course, it will be having the chemical component which is there in the parent rock. It's about then climatic changes. Climatic changes. The next concept, next factor, the important factor then is after this parent rock, it's a climatic changes. Climatic changes like the high temperature, low temperature, then high rainfall, low rainfall, the high velocity of blowing wind. This all that determines that forms the soil, and it helps in weathering the rock. The climatic changes that helps in weathering a rock. Then the rate of climatic change influences in soil formation. What is this sentence refers to? The rate of climatic changes influences in the soil formation. So, if the climatic condition is different, like if that area prevails with a very high temperature, if that area is having more rainfall, and if that area is blown by, like it's blowing by the high velocity of wind, then that area will be having more centimeters of, that area will be covered by the more centimeter of soils. Why? Because of high temperature and the rainfall, that rocks that gets weathered faster than any other comparatively. Such this rate of climatic, if the rate of climatic changes is more, then the soil formation will take less time comparing with other in formation of a soil. So that's about these two factors. Then the next factor what we have is about relief. Relief features. So what is that relief features? Like the slope and the steepy slope or gentle slope of that particular places that influences, that refers a different formation of soils. Like here in the mountain, the Himalayan mountain ranges, what we have is a steepy slope in the Himalayan mountain ranges. There we get a more soil, the more centimeter of soil, but the layer is somewhat thicker in comparing with the other places. In other places we have a thinner. So there in the foot of Himalayan mountain ranges, the thickness of layer is more because the mountain, obviously the mountain is formed by the rocks. The rocks, it has got weathered because of the high temperature. Then the second one is about the runoff water. There it receives rainfall. Suppose the Western Ghats, the Eastern Ghats, it has more elevation of a land, means it has more altitude. There from there, when the runoff water runs towards the southern direction, support the slopey areas, towards the shallow area, from the upper. So the velocity of or the speed of that water will be high. When it comes from the great height, that carries the sediments which is there in the peak of mountain and that deposits in the foothills. So when it deposits in the foothills, automatically the length or what you call the width or like a thickness of a soil increases. So that's what the relief features. The steep slope of land creates the thickness of a soil. It helps. These relief features that helps in the formation of a soil. If it is a plain area, that takes somewhat more geological time. And in every way, in under formation of a soil, it will be having many factors like the parent rock is very much important and climatic changes. Along with that, the relief features and about organic matters and the type, it also plays an important role. Like organic matters, materials, otherwise matters, materials, the dead particles of plants, animals, flora and fauna. When it mixes with this weathered rock, that helps for creating a humus in the soil. So these organic matters, it determines the humus and the fertility or humus of a soil. So you can see the place where having more forest cover is in the forest areas. The soil is very fertile. We can find a high humus soil in the forest because of the leaves or the fauna. When the animal dies, its animal body or this plant waste, animal waste, anything that gets mixed with the soil and that creates a humus, more fertility. So it is another one factor, the organic materials, which helps in creating or by adding the humus and fertility in it. It has or it determines. Okay, then time is another one factor that determines, it explains. If the place has taken more time in formation of soil, that explains it is having some more good quality of a soil. Is it not? So the like in Himalayan mountain ranges with the comparatively, in a Deccan plateau we have a Deccan plateau and Himalayan mountain range. Let us take example, and we will have a compare with these two with the Himalayan mountain ranges and Deccan plateau. Himalayan mountain ranges is called as young folded mountain because we call it as young mountain because now also it is growing. So when it grows, it newer in the formation of a soil. But in the Deccan plateau, it's not like that. The rock which is the plateau which is made up of a rock, it's older, like an igneous rock and metamorphic rock. Igneous and metamorphic rock, it's having more chemical component in it. So there, the time that refers the formation of a soil. Otherwise, time also influences. And it shows, actually, it explains. Okay. It's about this formation of soil. Next we will go for the conservation, degradation of soil and conservation of soil in the next class. So write down these points. Okay. Write down these points.